Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. We make Chris Skinner's Countryside podcast, and we've got something very exciting to share with you. We have a new service that's being launched, and it's called Spoken Stories.
Spoken Stories is all about recording the voices and memories of your loved ones in outstanding quality, so they can be enjoyed for generations to come. For example, you know the story that Grandma tells that everyone in the family has heard before. Well, Spoken Stories is about getting those stories down and preserving them for your family history. Spoken Stories is about gifting someone the time to capture these personalities and unique voices.
We record your loved ones' tales, whether it's their whole life story so far or something more specific like a life-changing event. It is a gorgeous experience, and what you're left with is a beautiful monologue that really captures the essence of that person.
Think of it like an audio portrait, and take a listen to a snippet of this one from Diane's spoken story, recorded in her beautiful garden.
I was born in 1951 at Newmarket, and unfortunately I didn't see Mum for a year. I was looked after by a lovely nurse called Diane, my name, because my mum had TB when I was born. And so my mother never worked because with her problem with her, lungs, she had to go and have it sort of pumped up every so often. She used to do a lot of dressmaking, so she always made our clothes years ago. But yeah, she was a lovely mum, yeah, and Dad as well, yeah. That's very nice childhood I had, yeah, very nice. Yeah. I got married February the 16th, 1974. The weather was gorgeous. I ended up having to put on a big sort of T-shirt under my wedding dress I didn't need. I had a lovely one of those transparent umbrellas in case it rained, and it was just a beautiful day. I think I'm always sort of quite cheerful. I mean, if I go down the Luke and deliver some eggs to somebody, I'll meet somebody and chat, and then Paul say, "Where have you been?" I said, "I've been chatting to people." That's just my way. That's just how I am. We've always lived here. We had this built in 1974. They put the footings down in February and we moved in the August. Years ago, I used to go around the village on a bike, and when I had Ian, he'd sit on the back. We live in a lovely area. We've got lovely neighbours. They help us all out, which you all do with neighbours, and that's very, very nice. And as I said to Paul, I'm hoping we can keep this place on until, well, I don't want to move from here until I go out in a brown box. I hope that's not too soon.
If you'd like more information about Spoken Stories and to take advantage of our special introductory offer, you can head to www.soundyard.org/spoken stories.
And keep listening after this episode with Chris, and you'll hear another example of a spoken story. It's a view of the world from a 6-year-old.
Chris Skinner's Countryside podcast with Matthew Gudgeon.
We've got our coats on now and donned our Wellington boots. It's autumn, isn't it, really, properly now, into October. But always a great pleasure to come and visit Chris Skinner on his square mile of Norfolk High Ash Farm. And Chris, it's when the autumn colours start to develop now, isn't it?
Yes, looking round the trees, we're right on the edge of Fox's Grove, a good chunk of Norfolk woodland, a whole variety of trees, and already in the lower part of the woodland there's some silver birch there, and in the last few days they've kind of had a wake-up call that it is autumn with the rain and the cooler nights. And there's a lovely golden brown sheen, and the leaves are already starting to drop off those, and you can see the lovely silver trunks. There's some horse chestnut further down in the wood, and the leaves, because it's an introduced species, the leaves are already gone brown and dropping onto the woodland floor to cover up this year's conkers as well. And the oaks are just beginning to turn, but they probably won't be losing their leaves until well into November, so they've got another month on the tree, and I can see acorns in front of us on those low branches of the oak. And there's another one beside us, sycamore here, another introduced species with a full canopy of leaves on there. But further into the wood, the leaves are just starting as a woodland track in front of us, and you can just see the first leaves landing on the track. So autumn is definitely here. The stinging nettles are just beginning to buckle over. There's quite a crop here in this area of woodland. And as it's autumn, that sort of season of mists and mellow fruitfulness, they say, I thought we'd start this week's podcast with some of the fungi that grow here at the farm. And I'll just put a little fence stake round these.
I fancied some nice garlic mushrooms on toast this lunchtime.
I don't think these are partly edible, but with all the fungi that we talk about in the next few weeks, because there's perhaps around 10,000 species of fungi in the UK. I've got a fungi book and it's that thick I can hardly lift it, but there are many that are very, very common, and everybody thinks it's just this season of the year. We've had lots of rain here at the farm, about 40 millimetres in total over the last couple of weeks. Very welcome rain. The ground is still warm, and the combination of the moisture and the warmth in the ground means it's a perfect time for a whole variety of different fungi to start sprouting up. Remember, if you talk to a mycologist, that's somebody who studies fungi, and said, what's special about autumn? And they'll look at you rather quizzically and say, you can find fungi all the year round, but we tend to be more aware of them in the autumn because of the colours, and just suddenly they spring up almost overnight.
And you've taken me to these, and they're growing straight out of the ground, aren't they? And quite large.
Yes, they're a good foot tall, aren't they? And they're swaying about in the wind, and they're bell-shaped fungi on a tall stalk, and the stalk's called the stipe. And then they are rather unusual because their proper name is ink caps, the whole family of them, and this particular one is called the shaggy ink cap, and there's a younger version of one just here, just coming out of the ground this morning, and another one over there. They're pretty quick at coming up and growing, and then they are scaly on the this freshly emerged one, and if you just cut the front off it and put it on somebody's head, imaginary, that gives it its second name, which is lawyer's wig, and very good description of them as well.
It's that snowy colour, isn't it, and the different patterns on there.
Yes, and the scales on the outside of it, and that will carry on growing till it joins one like this right in front of my knee here. It's probably 10 to 12 inches tall, about 30 centimetres tall, and it's swaying in the wind, and it started to eat itself. Its deliquescence is called auto-ingestion.
Well, there's this black liquid around the base of the bell, isn't there?
Yes, and hence the other name for this, the whole family of them. There's one over there which is almost just a black ring around the top of the stalk that it's growing on. And if I put my finger underneath this one and just go underneath, I've got a black slimy juice on my finger that looks a little bit like ink. Some people have saved it, this juice, and you can actually write with it with a fountain pen. So ink cap. You probably, I can remember using ink at school, and Rat has just missed a fungi by a millimetre and on the ground and talking, so it's a little bit too exciting for. Would you come here? I'll pick you up.
Rat, the terrier, he insisted on coming along today, and of course
he's causing trouble already. And we've hardly started. So if I hold him like this, that might keep him a bit quiet. So ink cap, and what's happening is it kind of eats itself, so it dissolves into this black ink, but the black ink's important. Some fungi produce spores from the gills underneath. Something like a field mushroom will have little gills underneath, and the spores come out from under there and they blow off in the wind. With something like this particular species, the lawyer's wig or ink cap, the spores are all in this black ink, and it drops on the ground, and if an animal does walk past it and brushes off, then there's one almost completely dissolved itself over there. It just does look like somebody spilt a whole bottle of ink on the ground.
Yes, it's pitch black under there.
It is.
And it's dissolving away just into the ground.
Yes.
But I suppose that's a useful process.
Yeah, absolutely. So that will contain the spores, and that then goes into the soil. And this is the interesting thing about fungi, when you make the mistake of thinking that they're just here for one particular season, the spores then germinate in the soil. Some germinate in old dead trees, some attack living trees. So there's a variety of species of fungi, and they're all interesting, and they all of them in some way or other have relevance to us. And so you can hear this podcast and think, I've got nothing to do with fungi, I don't care whether they're there or not. But then I asked you some questions. Do you ever drink beer? And probably the answer is yes. And of course beer is produced by yeast, a form of fungi. You've got blue cheese, you've got penicillin, of course, from the mould that can grow on marmalade or cheese, and antibiotics, and many of them are from fungi. So bread, of course, the yeast in bread is yet another one. So there's a whole variety. In some way or other we're linked to them, but fungi don't have chlorophyll, so I suppose people are beginning to call it the fifth kingdom, whereas animals will be right at the top, the first kingdom. The next one down would be plants, and then you've got all the different species, and fungi would be at the bottom because they don't manufacture their own food from sunlight like living green plants do. They have chlorophyll in them, and fungi don't. So fungi break things down that are either already dead, or they attack things and dissolve them and then recycle the nutrients. So they're really, really important in fact, they're crucial in the environment, because otherwise there'd be nothing to take everything that's living here back to its original components. So that's just why I'm fascinated by them, and started to get interested in them when I met a mycologist, a very important person for me, and made me think about the farm here and the way I was behaving as a kind of Attila the Hun, burning all the straw after harvest, and that was Ted Ellis. And he was quite a well-known mycologist and studied fungi, and I spent time with him, and occasionally we'd be walking down beside a hedge together, and he'd just dart in. There's quite an elderly man, and there'd just be his bottom sticking out of the hedge, and he'd come out with a huge smile on his face because he'd seen something he hadn't seen for 2 or 3 years perhaps. And there are so many species, as I said, at least 10,000 in the UK, and there's lots of fungi groups of people get together and go on fungal forays, we call it, and just learn about all the different species. There's another group over there. So lawyer's wig or shaggy ink caps will grow very quickly at this time of the year. This patch, there was 150 or so here just over the other side of the track yesterday, and they were gleaming in the brief spell of sunlight that we had, and they're virtually all dissolved themselves and gone within 24 hours. And that's the crazy thing about fungi. They're here, they go quickly, and it's just the fruiting part of their year, if you like. It's a bit like flowers coming into flower in the spring, and they're gone by the next season, and fungi are the same, but they're here all the different species at various times of the year. You just got to know when to look and where to look, and they fascinate me.
Well, these are splendid examples, and I dare say we'll be looking at more as the weeks go by.
Yes, we certainly will. There's always entertaining species, and some of them are quite surprising, and some of them perhaps not quite so friendly, but they're all part of that huge sort of circle of life, if you like, and a really important part of it as well.
Well, we've come a little further into the woods. It's actually brightening up here. We're getting some glimpses of brightness coming through the canopy, which is now opening up at this time of year.
Yes, Matthew. Some of the trees, we've come into the area of woodland now, and there's more light. It's strange, as the days get shorter, the trees, the deciduous trees, start to lose their leaves. They find it hard to get water at this time of the year, and with the cooler temperatures overnight, they seem to know instinctively that it's time for the leaves to come off, and they all do it in succession. The introduced varieties first, and then the good old oaks, probably the last to lose their leaves. And it's about a year ago I brought you to this particular giant ash tree in front of us, and all round the base of the tree were kind of honey-coloured fungi, if you can remember, and it was actually called the honey fungus, Armillaria malea, and there's none there at the moment. It's really strange. It's done its job. It's gone into the tree, and if we took some of the bark off, peeled it off, there'd be black bootlaces going all the way up the trunk, and it's got another name called the bootlace fungus, and that is the part of the fungi that you don't see. It's a really aggressive fungus, and the tree is it's a good 100 feet tall. It's an ash tree, one of the largest ash trees on the farm. You can see all the other ash trees around us and behind us. We're in an ash grove here.
But these are alive.
They're all alive. This has completely been killed by that fungus, Armillaria malea. It's one of those very aggressive ones which I described that attacks living trees, and it's done its job. We probably won't see it again unless the tree gets cut off, the stump gets left there, and occasionally you will see it growing on stumps. It will come up in people's lawns where you've lost a tree in the past. Somebody's dug around or dug the stump out, and there's enough decaying or dead wood just under the soil level for it to reappear, so it'll often stay in a particular area for quite a while, but it's done its job in this case, and then another fungus has taken over, and a large branch has snapped off and let more water in, and all the way up the trunk to a height of about 20-25 feet, a little bracket fungi, and they're doing the next job of breaking down already dead wood. So they're harmless species. It's got an interesting name, and there's quite a branch fallen off over here, so we can just walk carefully over and we can have a closer look at it, because it's got a lovely name. I just love all these.
It looks like the colour of leaves all stuck to the branch.
It does, and they're faded a little bit, but when they first, I'll see if I can break one off. There we are. It's a little bracket fungus, and it was all lovely purple zones all the way around in a semicircle, and it was called turkey tail, this particular one. And it does, my father used to have turkeys and grow them for the Christmas market years and years ago, and the stag turkeys, the males, used to display rather like a peacock displaying his tail, but they did it with their tail, which was much less prominent, and the colours on the top of this fungi pretty much resemble a turkey's tail, hence the name. It's got a very long scientific name as well, but really interesting to see how it breaks down. If I turn around carefully without falling over, we should be able to see some of the rot in the top of that branch and let the water in. And of course I just heard a green woodpecker calling behind us, and that tree will be left here there's a branch snapped off at about 30 feet and obviously let the water in the trunk as well. And so it's all part of that rot, and we're now getting rained upon. Typical autumn weather, sunshine and showers, rather like you get at the beginning of the year. And so all that process of rotting is carrying on.
It's quite attractive, though, the pattern of this bracket fungus all the way up this dead tree, isn't it? It's quite closely packed and all at right angles.
They're all at right angles, and that's why it's called a bracket fungi. They kind of attach themselves in almost at right angles to the trunk, and there's several thousand of them. They're quite diminutive, about 50 millimetres across in diameter each one, in a neat little semicircle, and it's just penetrated the wood. But again, it's the fruiting body we're seeing, Matthew. So you'd like to think that's the fungi, and it isn't. It's the mycelium under the bark and gone right into the centre of the tree, probably. So they're amazingly powerful things, and they work at a very slow rate of knots. And I'm just going to show you what they can do, because that tree looks rock solid, doesn't it? Here in front of us is one of the largest horse chestnuts on the farm. Looks fantastically strong tree, doesn't it?
Yes, well, it does, yeah. So it's got a sturdy old trunk on it.
Yes, yeah, and great buttress roots. Up there, again, 30 metres, over 100 feet tall. But just walk round this side of the tree, and it's quite a walk round. It's a good 20 feet in circumference, at least that. Now, a big branch has come off here, part of the tree snapped away, and look, rat can go in one side and come out the other.
Yeah.
It's completely hollow, and that's the result of a fungal infection. Absolutely
so
amazing.
So it's being eaten away from the inside.
Yes, because it's suitable for a completely different species of fungi. It's called a Gandomera, and there's been big bracket fungi on here in recent years, dropping all the spores out from underneath. Nothing you can do in the woodland situation to control it, nor can you with the Armillaria malea, the honey fungus we talked about. And the trees try to compensate by putting a few new roots down, but basically I could get in that hollow underneath the tree, so we get a good autumn wind. The tree's already leaning a bit to the south, and it's likely to go over at any time.
It's doomed.
It is doomed, but it's a beautiful tree. But that then lets the light back into this part of the woodland, and you'll have young trees coming. I might come and replant some young oaks down here. I've already got some oak saplings ready to go out, and so when that happens, it will lay on the woodland floor. It'll be left to rot down, because I love all the fungi, I love the process of returning it. And that's one of its last conkers you've just picked up. Beautiful brown colour.
Isn't that lovely?
At this time of the year. I mean, if I was back in my early childhood, I'd be challenging you to a game of conkers with those. That's quite a sizable one. But the colour, when they're first emerged, is really, really beautiful. And you can see the little conker cases laying all on the ground. Another one just dropped off beside us in the breeze.
Here you go, rat. Look, conker. No?
He's not interested in those.
He heard you mention that a new kennel for him under the tree.
Yes, yeah, that's right. He's looking round that old ash tree now to see if there's anything worth sniffing in under there. But there we are, the life and death of woodland, and it's completely natural. And yes, it happens to all of us. We're born, we live, we die, all of us. And the woods and the fungi are all part of that really important system.
The ducks at High Ash Farm going in to roost for an evening. Hey everyone, it's Matthew here, and if you've been enjoying our countryside podcasts, we've got a small favour to ask.
Yes, Matthew. What we're going to do is to ask for a small donation to help run the podcast, and any surplus goes for conservation at High Ash Farm here. And so it's really important. We both love to keep the podcast going, and that duck agrees with me, I think.
Well, it's straightforward to donate. You can make a one-off donation or set up a small monthly contribution, and the address is highashfarm.com/podcast.
We're hugely grateful for any support. It means we can keep sharing the stories of the countryside, which I love doing each week, but it's that small amount of costs we need to cover. So thank you very much in advance.
Got a marvellous panoramic view of all sorts of weather patterns coming through, but we're in the sunshine at the moment and it's quite warm.
Oh, lovely, isn't it? The weather changes so quickly. And we're out in the middle of one of the largest fields on High Ash. And Rat is very excited about this. I think he thinks we're going to run round the perimeter of the field, and so he gets a bit of extra exercise. Anyway, we started the podcast off this week with looking at some of the weird and wonderful shapes of autumn fungi, and I thought, well, we can't really finish without showing you something to make you smile a little bit. So if you walk over here, here's some coming up. We're on one of High Ash's wildflower fields here, and there's a beauty just here, and I think even you will know what this one is, Matthew.
Well, is it a puffball?
No, it isn't.
No,
it's
is
a
it?
field mushroom.
Field mushroom, which actually, yes, are coming up in profusion here.
Yes, yeah, they're not in a circle, so it's not fairy ring champignon, which will be a look-alike, and this is the whole thing about fungi. Unless, and I mean unless you are 100% certain, don't pick them and eat them, because if you make a mistake it can be catastrophic, because there are look-alikes, and there's some that look just like this which are make you pretty ill, and some in the woodland that there's really no recovery from. And already in the UK this autumn 2 or 3 people have eaten the wrong fungi and become hospitalised. They're lucky to be alive, actually.
Are these the ones with the pink gills?
Yes, so what I will do is I will pick this one. There's lots here. Just pick him out of the ground like that. Another one, beauty, coming up immediately underneath, and there's your gills that I was talking about. You can run your finger over them.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
Very fine filaments.
Yes, and pink as well. But this one's, 3.5 inches across, probably 45 millimetres diameter. And then the next test would be, it's upside down now, to get the little lip, and it should peel like that, which it has done, to the middle of the fungi itself, so you can actually peel it off. But other species, there's one called the yellow stainer, which will do exactly the same thing, and that will make you pretty nauseous if you did eat it, which is why I say be really careful. Some slug damage down on the stalk there, just where the stipe goes into the ground. Slug's been there, and then if I break the cap off in half very carefully, and this is an excellent one.
Isn't he? He is a beauty.
Because they're normally, with one this size and with the weather we've had, you get lots of flies laying their eggs under gills. They hatch out, the maggots hatch out very quickly, and you get a kind of bit of extra protein with your fungi. So there we are. So that's
This is your tea tonight, isn't it?
Yeah. And then, of course, if I pass it over and you have a good sniff, you should get that lovely...
Yeah. Oh, that lovely mushroomy
smell,
Yeah.
which helps identify. But it's still not 100% certain, and anybody who knows anything about fungi will all say the same. Don't eat it unless you're absolutely certain. If you do happen to pick some and you do know what they are and you're going to take them home and eat them, then only pick one or so from a patch and let either others enjoy the view or the spectacle of them if you're out on some parkland or common land. And also it allows them to complete their life cycle, which is often very short, which is why if you're gathering fungi to eat, you've got to be pretty quick about it, because they'll go past their best almost in a day. We did look at one a month or so ago in the summer, late summer, and it was chicken of the woods, and that goes to sort of white and leather in the matter of a few days. But to start with, it looks quite appetising, and it got a smell and a texture of freshly cooked chicken as well. But we're on one of the wildflower fields, Matthew. This has been mown, and what I'm doing is just looking round for any regrowth. A dandelion just coming into flower there. Look here, perfection for me. Hands and knees again. We looked at fungi, which don't have chlorophyll in them, and this is an orchid look-alike.
Yes, a plant with purplish sort of flowers.
Yes, all the way up the stem. It's about 150 mil tall, about 6 inches tall, just coming into flower, and in a few days' time it will be just brown. I'm just looking around to see if any are near us that have gone over. And it's a fungus on this plant here, which is clover, and there's lots of sainfoin here, lots of different leguminous plants, and it latches onto the roots of the pea family, which the sainfoin and the clover are both members, and it feeds on those. So a bit like mistletoe in a way, which is a semi-parasite because mistletoe has green leaves, so it manufactures food from the sunlight, whereas lesser broom rape, which is what this is, no chlorophyll, so no green in it at all, doesn't need any colour, and yet it produces, because it's stealing food from this clover plant. Isn't that clever? And just like the fungi we had, they break nutrients down from the wood, the cellulose in the wood, to edible portions, and then that feeds the mycelium or the hyphae down in the ground.
So it's parasitical behaviour, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So some of the fungi that we visit are parasites and some are saprophytes. They don't break down. Sorry to use all these terrible words, but if you're talking to anybody who knows about fungi, it's just part of their being, part of their language. You have to learn all these new terms. But there we are, a lovely new plant just emerged, and a new one for us on the podcast, lesser broom rape. There we are, fantastic plant, growing attached to this clover plant right next to it.
And the field mushrooms as well.
And field mushrooms as well. This one's for my tea.
Back in the farm truck, as the ever-changing weather looks like we're going to get some rain now, and we've got lots of your emails, so best to stay dry.
I think so. Safe than sorry.
And Ray Dumpleton was listening to last week's podcast, where we had a very close-up view of the wonderful site of what looks like a prehistoric cormorant. The
Yes.
Cormorants are very, very prevalent in this area and the Broads and out to sea as well around the Norfolk coast. And Ray said, by the side of a mere in Cheshire, I saw a colony of cormorant. Without cliffs to nest on, they used a lakeside tree. I counted at least 50 pairs. It was, however, fatal for the tree, so caked in guano that it couldn't survive.
I did mention the guano last week. Normally you'll see it, the excrement from the cormorant, it's normally white and it dries white on rocks and you get quite a layer of it. I said it's an excellent garden fertiliser, but it is so strong that if it's on leaves of a plant or on plants on the ground, it causes something called exosmosis, which is the opposite to osmosis, and it actually takes water out of the living tissues, and so it is very, very powerful. It's all the leftovers from the fish and the eels that the cormorants have eaten, but it's quite toxic.
Ray also sends a photo. I thought you'd like to see this picture I took of what I think is an elephant hawk moth, which has been chomping on some rosebay willow herb alongside a local cycle path.
Yes, and look at that. It's a perfect example. As Ray said in the email, it's a little bit darker than what you'd normally see in a moth book, but nevertheless, that's exactly what it is, and it's about to pupate. So well done. It's a lovely photograph. It's on what Ray said is rosebay willow herb. We also call it fireweed here in Norfolk. It often grows on places where fires have been. And the Victorians used to grow rosebay willow herb at the back of their borders, a sort of early delphinium, and will replace foxgloves as well. Sometimes comes into flower a little bit later in the year.
Hello to Melanie Walsh, who's emailed about cormorants. She's telling us she made a pilgrimage to Haff on Wednesday. Haff being...
High Ash Farm. Well done.
Saw a couple of cormorants sitting on the bare branches at the top of a tall ash, not far from the lake. I don't ever recall you mentioning these visitors. Ah, well, these are the ones we talked about last week.
We went there last week, and I turned round in disgust because they weren't on the lake, and right in front of us, a cormorant in a tree. And from the previous email, Ray Dumpleton there had seen them nesting in trees. Do you know what? In Norfolk, they have started to move inland more and more, particularly where there are large stocks of fish and fisheries as well. They can cause a bit of a problem, but they've discovered my lake, which is full of rudd fish and a few brown trout as well, and they're having a takeaway menu 2 or 3 times a day.
Gillian sent a photograph. This is a butterfly tucking into a blackberry. Fascinating to watch. I've listened to every one of the programmes, learned something new every week. Keep up the good work, Chris.
Oh, and it's such a picture as well. It's a comma butterfly. It's got its wings open. It's freshly emerged. It's in tip-top condition. And if it did close its wings, you would find out immediately how it got that wonderful and unusual name, comma, because on the underside of each wing, where the wings are closed, there's a very distinctive white dot with a little tail coming off it, which it looks exactly like a comma, exclamation mark.
Shows how efficient your filing system is here. Here's your invitation to your school reunion.
Oh, my word. Oh, dear. Once I've left school, I'm afraid.
Now, you've got to go, Chris. You've got to see all those old friends.
Literally old friends now.
Sarah Scott lives at Cantley, which is about sort of 10 miles that way, isn't it? And
Yes.
I enclose a couple of pictures of water, she says, running out of an ash tree and foaming like washing up water. Any ideas of what the cause could be? The tree was growing at Strumpshaw, that's quite close to the River Yare, on the old rubbish tip, but I can't think what caused it unless it was gas bubbling up. And there are the images. Have a look at that,
Yes,
Chris.
I know. Just look at that. It's stunning, Matthew. As you say, the photographs of an ash trunk, we can see some there, and this is absolutely perfect picture.
Well, it looks like fairy liquid coming
It
in.
absolutely does, and it's the foam. It's the result of all the rain we've had. It splashes because we've also had some northerly and northeasterly winds there, driving the rain in against the side of the tree. The rain runs down rivulets in the bark and dissolves some sodium and a little bit of potassium there, and then you've got an acid. It's called acrylic acid, and it's a process that forms soap. So if you actually get hold of those bubbles, you can rub it between your fingers. And I had to learn about all this at school, and it's a process called saponification. There we are.
There you go again.
I'm sorry about this, but it's the formation of soap. And I tell you, the other time you can see it is if you had a long dry period on the roads, and then you get heavy rain, and the tyres splash all the water up and mix it up, and you can have a foam on the road. And it's kind of the same process, but it's the rain lashing against the tree in this case and washing out some of the minerals. And that process again, I've got to say it again, makes me smile. Saponification.
Jane and Carl Nicholson sent a note saying that they bumped into you, Chris, at the nursery on Sunday, a local nursery. Hope I didn't embarrass you too much by shaking your hand. Oh,
Yes,
well, worse things have happened, I think.
The lady just suddenly came up to me and grabbed my hand. I was getting some extra wallflowers for the farmyard around the old oak tree in the middle of the farmyard, and I'd run out, so quickly zipped to the local nursery at Kirsted, and this lady came up to me very quickly, shook my hand and introduced herself, and thank you very much. No, that wasn't embarrassing, but lots of people stood and stared.
Now, Jane and Carl have spotted a chaffinch in their front garden that appeared to have webbed feet. Would this be caused by disease? If so, does it just affect chaffinches? They say we've got 22 bird feeders in total, front and back in the garden, and we clean and disinfect them regularly, and we get blue and great and coal tits, chiff-chaffs, greenfinch, all sorts of birds.
Yes, well, it's quite a common condition, and mainly it is on chaffinches and affects their feet. It's a viral papilloma, it's called. It's usually caused by a scratch or a small cut, so do check the feeders, but it's unlikely to be from your specific feeders. You said you keep them clean and disinfect them, because birds are so mobile, they can get out and about all over the place, and if the foot gets slightly injured, they can pick up this little virus, and it grows. The best way to describe it, it's like a cauliflower on the foot. It is quite distressing to see. The extreme case, the bird can actually lose its foot or part of its leg as well, and I have seen them hopping about with one leg and often the other foot is infected as well. It's mildly infectious, particularly if the creature involved, being a chaffinch, has a small lesion on the foot. So it's always sad to see, but well observed anyway.
And worth washing out your bird feeders
Yeah,
once a year or so?
Yes, or even more frequently than that, because birds are spending more and more time in gardens, and particularly birds like goldfinches. There is a record of a goldfinch having caught this as well, and occasionally on greenfinches as well, but by far the greatest bird species that is affected by this virus are chaffinches.
A bulging postbag as always. Thanks to each and every one of you for your questions and comments, and keep them coming. chris@countrysidepodcast.co.uk. I love this time of year, and we're going to venture deeper into October when we're next together on High Ash Farm.
Yes, see you soon, Matthew, and I'm looking forward to it already, and we'll come up with some new words, I'm sure, and some new sights and sounds for you to enjoy.
This is a Soundyard production. Music is by Tom Harris.
Hello, it's Anna and Sophie from Soundyard here. Our new service, Spoken Stories, is an incredible experience where we record the stories and voice of your loved one, which you can then hold on to forever.
It makes for an incredible gift, and anyone can make one. Take a listen to this. It beautifully captures the thoughts and feelings of life from a 6-year-old's perspective.
I'm 6 years old and I love running around. I can run very, very fast, but I'm even faster on my bike. That's why I love biking. It makes me feel energetic, and also I bike loads of places. I like doing sports like dodgeball. The people that are in charge in the world, well, I think that there should be no one in charge at all. So everyone's in charge. So there's no person that's in charge. So everyone is a bit more free. That's what I think. Well, what I try to change at the moment is global warming. It's when us humans litter, destroy the planet and all its nature. That's global warming. It makes me feel sad. And also, if us humans keep doing that, it could destroy the whole planet Earth, and then all of the human beings will be destroyed. I try to stop global warming, and also in my coat pocket I have a bit of Kit Kat litter I found on the floor once. I love the planet more than anything. Grown-ups should be stopping global warming, because grown-ups are more powerful than kids. But if kids can be more powerful than grown-ups. Kids and grown-ups can work together and do it. Kids should be able to do the same things as grown-ups. They should have more rights. Well, I love myself because that I believe in a lot of things. That's what I love about myself. I like being a kid, but because when I'm a grown-up, I'm going to have my own kids because that's what I want. And also, I'm a bit worried to have kids. And I'm still going to be a kid for like a long, long time. So I'm glad that's actually going to happen. I'm glad I'm going to stay a kid for a long time. I'm going to have kids because I want to know what it feels like to be a parent. I'm going to be a good parent.
Isn't that just gorgeous? If you'd like to find out more about recording a spoken story of your own, or you'd like to buy this as a present for someone, take a look at our website, www.soundyard.org/spoken stories, and take advantage of our introductory offer. Alternatively, you can get in touch via email hello@soundyard.org.
And if the internet isn't an option, you can leave a message with your details on our landline number. It's 01603 273 899, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.